Hey there, listeners. Welcome to another episode of our Fly podcast series, where we take you through the career journeys of senior industry leaders. Today, we are excited to have with us Sri, who has had a remarkable career spanning IT, consulting, and digital transformation, and is currently serving as a director of corporate strategy at Indegene. Now, Indegene, if you may know, has been all over the news lately with their hugely successful IPO. Congratulations on that, by the way. So, as we take this
Thank you.
interaction ahead, Shri, why don't you take us through a bit about your journey? And you can mention any important turning points or any milestones that you feel are critical in your journey so far.
Sure. Great. First of all, I'm super excited to be doing this. Really looking forward to it. So, as far as the journey is concerned, I'll probably start from all the way back. So, I was born in this small town called Jorhat in Assam, and that's where I have spent the first 18 years of my life. And probably I'm from the time when, as you're growing up, there are only two career options for most people. Either you become an engineer or a doctor. And I didn't want to study for like 10 years, so I picked the engineering route and ended up traveling to Vellore VIT for my engineering. VIT, again, was almost like a love at first sight kind of a decision when I saw the campus and fell in love with it. It was one of the early admission processes and ended up joining. Has been a pretty exciting 4 years there. I think that was the first time when I had actually stayed away from home, away from my family, and uh, met people from all around the country, experienced South India outside of just traveling for the first time, got exposed to a lot of new cultures. And eventually, I think when I completed my engineering, even though I had taken electronics, I kind of ended up moving to IT because I think that's where most of the jobs were. So I had spent, so I ended up joining TCS right after VIT, spent 3.5 years there, started as a software developer, kind of moved on to more of a business analyst, business kind of a lies in between the tech and the business teams kind of a role. And that's when I think I started realizing that probably coding and software is not where I envisioned my future. I was more interested in the business side of things, and an MBA seemed like a more seamless transition at that point in time. And I think that's when I decided to kind of write the GMAT and CAT. CAT, I saw my friends required a lot of preparation, a lot of studying. So I figured GMAT might be an easier way out. So I just wrote it and got a good score, applied to USB schools and ISB. ISB worked out, a couple of USB schools also worked out. We can talk a little bit further, but then kind of did some sort of an ROI calculation, 1 year versus 2 years, the cost of education, and then where you want to kind of spend the rest of your life in terms of family being in India and then living in the US. That's something which I was not super excited about at that point in time. So I ended up picking ISB. I think the most exciting and most eventful 1 year with so much packed into that year. And then I think again it was an interesting journey because when I went into ISB, I went in thinking I want to be a marketing professional. And that was kind of one of my core desires for like doing an MBA, that I would move into marketing. But I think when I went into the campus, I got introduced to so many different career options. I mean, I knew consulting existed as a profession, but what really happens in consulting is not something I was exposed to prior to ISB, right? And then similarly, a lot of other areas, be it product management or any of the other post MBA jobs that usually people go into, right? So I think it was a great learning that way. And then again, consulting was also almost just happened to me, kind of. That was not my first priority. And when the placements were happening, I applied to Deloitte because it was day one and everyone else was traveling to our Mohali campus for placements, and I didn't want to stay back in Hyderabad alone. And I interviewed without any preparation, cracked it somehow. They made an offer. I liked the offer. I liked the people who I interviewed with and ended up joining. And then I spent 7.5 years there. So I think something clicked. But I think I spent a lot of time both in India and in the US in my consulting journey. And I came back to India from the US around 2020, which was just around the COVID time. And that was when I was kind of again contemplating on some of my life's choices and the rigor of consulting life, all the traveling that it involves was kind of starting to take a toll. And I figured I wanted something which gives me a bit more stability, flexibility, a bit more work-life balance, more predictability. And that's when in-house strategy role felt like a natural transition. And that's when I ended up joining Indegene. And it's been more than 2.5 years now. Exciting journey so far. Happy to talk about it more if interested. But yeah, that's been the journey. Not a very short one. It was a long winding answer, but hope that helps.
But thank you for taking us through your journey, Shri. And I can particularly relate to your love
Yeah.
for the VIT campus and also your memories with ISB. I mean, it's quite an experience. I mean, what's interesting to me, like right from the
Absolutely.
beginning of your answer, I I remember you mentioning that you were able to transition to some business analyst based roles even before your MBA. I mean, how did that transition
Yeah.
happen from a software engineer to a business analyst type of a role in your job profile?
So that was an interesting thing, right? So in TCS, when I was working, my client was Deutsche Bank, and we had like a 7-member team, and there were 3 software developers, 2 testers, 1 business analyst, and 1 person who was managing the entire project, and I think someone on the database side. So that was kind of the team, right? So while I was doing my software development coding work, and the good thing is most of the work when you start right out of engineering, it doesn't take up all of your time, right? For example, in consulting, you are doing 12-hour, 14-hour day jobs. But I think when you are in a job, like a software development job, probably out of your 8-9 hour workday, you get to manage most of your work in 5-6 hours and you still have some time to yourself. And the business side of things always interested me. So the business analyst in my team was someone I used to like talk with a lot in terms of how do you do this, how do you define all these business requirements with the clients. So I used to have those interactions, and he started involving me in some of those meetings, and it just happened initially that I was a passive listener, and eventually when the team got a bit of confidence, I started running some of it on my own, almost like backfilling for him when he was on leave to start off, and then eventually it just, I think, came as a natural progression.
So I think the key aspect that comes out for me here is taking initiative. I mean, which you took in your case. I mean, to first of all, not only interact to understand his job better and also fill in. I mean, whenever he had to be on leave and,
Yeah,
take up other responsibilities. So,
absolutely. I think, and also I guess when you have interest in certain things, you tend to naturally gravitate towards it. So that might have been another contributing factor there.
so I mean,
Yeah.
that takes me to the next question. And actually, it's something that people ask us a lot is that, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
is MBA, I mean, really relevant in today's day and age? I mean, in the way industry is shaping at the moment, do you really feel we need an MBA to progress our career, basically?
So again, I think I'll give a very consulting type answer to this question. It depends is the answer, and it's a mix of yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
So one part of your MBA is when you are kind of learning those courses to get the business skills. You're doing courses on strategy, marketing. I think all of that has become much more democratized today with a lot of our online learning platforms and even really good quality distant education programs from some of the top B schools where you can take certifications in specific subjects. That skill set can be acquired by anyone even without enrolling for a full-time MBA program.
Mm-hmm.
But the other aspect, I think the softer aspect of your MBA, the network that you build, the kind of people you end up meeting, especially if you're doing MBA from a B school like ISB, or if you're doing it from outside of India, I think at least in my life personally, that was the first time I was interacting with such a diverse group of people who are not just engineers, for example, right? And people who have come from with different years of experience from different fields of life, from different parts of the country and the world, in fact, and then bringing in their learnings and their thought process. And that experience in the classroom cannot be replicated through a online course, for example, or even probably not from an on the jobs kind of a learning. So I think that aspect of MBA is definitely still relevant. The second part is, I mean, it's been 10 years since I completed MBA, but this ISB network that I have, right? I can keep going back to them for anything I need, be it a professional decision if I'm looking to switch jobs, if it's a mentorship kind of a decision, if I'm just looking to explore about a new industry. All I need to do is drop an email to my ISB network and I'll find at least 5 experts volunteering to help out. I don't think you get that kind of a network without doing an MBA from a top tier B school like ISB or any of the other equivalent schools.
No, I think I completely agree on that. I think the biggest advantage, I mean, that a good B school
But
gives
I
you
think
is the network.
I think I'll just add to it a lot of people do MBA as a motivator to just get a better salary in life. I think that piece, you don't really need an MBA anymore. I think there are a lot of skill sets that you can build on your own and still get the salary hike that you are looking for. For example, even in software development, in engineering, I think with advent of all the startups in India, with the rise of e-commerce and the digital economy, there's a lot of opportunity and you don't really need an MBA to kind of get the kind of salary which earlier people used to get only after an MBA. So that part I don't think is like super relevant today. If you still want to continue in engineering and software development, you can do that and still get the same kind of salary. So
Yes, absolutely. I think like if salary was the sole goal, I think there are many ways to attain a similar level of salary. I mean, like being more skilled in certain technologies and trying to prove your work over the years, changing jobs and taking up different responsibilities. But I think the network that you mentioned, I think always remains a very critical aspect of a good MBA program. And that helps you throughout your professional life.
Totally.
I believe like over the span of your career, you would have interacted with many colleagues who have done their education abroad, who work in US in various different industries. I wonder, I mean, like from your perspective, what incrementally do you feel a student can get in an international B school as compared to an education in an Indian B school that typically ISB provides?
Yeah. So I think, first of all, ISB tries to a large extent to replicate what happens in most of the international B schools, but still ISB is much more academically structured as compared to the USB schools. I think in most of the USB schools, at least based on my interactions with my friends and colleagues who have studied there, it's much more application based. It's less about classroom courses, learning things, and then writing exams, more about life projects, internships, and actually gaining real world experience. And the second part is, I think, while in ISB we had a fair amount of diversity, in the USB schools it's much more. Most schools have a lower threshold of at least 3 to 5 years of work experience before doing an MBA. So people come with more experience as compared to the Indian schools. I mean, if you go to the IIMs, the years of experience would be 0 to 3, right? Mostly. ISB still had a minimum 2-year cutoff, and USB schools have a much higher cutoff that way. So I think more diversity, more experiential learning. And I think in terms of professors, ISB was almost equally as good because we had the visiting professors from most of the top B schools in the US. But I think in addition to all of these, post MBA, I think the career growth is faster, especially if you kind of pick a line like consulting. So for example, I joined Deloitte, right? Someone who completed engineering, MBA and joined Deloitte in India versus someone who joined in the US. The starting position is higher in the US. You join as a senior consultant there versus as a consultant in India with the same years of pre-MBA experience. And then you progress in your career much faster in the US as compared to in India. So I think that has a compounding effect kind of in the long run.
I see.
So those would be some of the advantages, of course, I think. Yeah. But of course, I mean, even the most average B schools have a tuition fee upwards of $100,000. So unless you get a good scholarship, I think that's a huge financial burden that you are kind of taking up. So that is something that might not work with everyone's risk appetite. So I think that's the downside. But mostly I have seen, at least Indians, I think we are smart that way and we figure out how to land the right job and kind of get it out of the way. But yeah, I think when you are starting off in your journey, that becomes a pressure point on your head that I have to repay that loan, and people don't want to take that risk in certain scenarios.
Yeah, true. Absolutely. I mean, end of the day, it boils down to the risk appetite as well. I mean, the tuition fee and also the visa limitations. I mean, with the
Yeah,
work.
that's another big challenge. I mean, you still have some advantages if you study in the US. I think a bit more flexibility, but I agree. I think that's another big challenge with US. And then I did contemplate some of the European MBA programs as well, but the job opportunities in Europe are not as great. And I think if you go to some of the non-English speaking countries, language becomes a constraint as well. So unless you speak the local language, it's hard to land a good job over there.
Yes. True. I mean, for many European countries, big economies like Germany, I mean, you need to really know German if you want to get a good job within the country.
Correct.
So yeah, there's these
Exactly.
challenges with European MBAs. That's true. Shri, I mean, like I'll just switch gears to back to your ISB experience. So, talking about the 1 year experience at ISB, what were the expectations that you had once you started your MBA, and do you feel those expectations were met by the time you finished your MBA?
So, one thing with the ISB MBA is, given it's a 1 year program, I think a lot of things get really compressed within that year, and you're constantly like worrying about the next midterm, the next end term, and every 6 weeks we have exams, right? So you're almost kind of been put into this machine and you have to like keep moving from one step to the other. And if you don't do that, you'll probably fall through the cracks. So that's something that I think goes on in your mind, just given the rigor of the program. And that probably prevents you from experimenting as much as you would have in a 2 year program. I think that is one of the biggest things when I look back, that I could have done differently, probably, maybe experimented more, try out more new things, because that was a year when I could have taken more risks without as much negative consequences as, because I think what happens is when you're doing your MBA, you feel your grades are everything and you won't get the right placement if your grades are not good enough, and you have to do your assignments on time and everything needs to be perfect. So you are after that, so you kind of not focus so much on your extracurriculars, which are basically not adding to your CV. And you're always focused on building the best CV, be it through extracurriculars, be it through your club activities, be it through your leadership positions. But I think when you're going into your B school experience, I think you should let loose a little bit, not worry so much about the right CV, because that'll anyway get formed, but experience everything, be more present, not think about future placements the entire time. I think that is what I would say to an aspiring B school student when you are kind of going in. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think like in a very tight program like ISB's 1 year PGP program, I think there is always you have to prioritize between many things, and sometimes you fear taking many risks in terms of opportunities that you could take up, maybe competitions, maybe activities that you wish you could take up, but then you feel
Yeah.
that maybe you don't have enough time. And about the
Yeah. I
grade,
mean, there's
well,
only so many hours in the day. And
yep,
yeah.
true,
So
true.
sometimes you deprioritize things which you actually enjoy, but you feel like it's not really adding value. You're so much focused on value addition that you end up deprioritizing things which you really enjoy doing or which actually gets you excited, right? So you don't end up taking some risks which you otherwise would have.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think like the entirety of MBA should not be a very serious business because end of the day you also need activities to rejuvenate, to
Absolutely.
be yourself, be it
Yep.
dancing. For some people it's sports, some people it's dancing, music,
Yeah,
anything
I
that.
remember I used to play ultimate frisbee, and that was like our de-stressing time end of every day.
Nice, nice. I mean, definitely, I think some good
Yeah,
memories to look back to.
absolutely.
So, Shri, I mean, like talking about consulting, since you gravitated to consulting post your MBA, at what point you
Yep.
realized, I mean, that this is the domain you want to go for and you want to try for? I mean, what was the motivation behind trying a career in consulting for you?
If you want me to be super honest, that
Mm-hmm.
wasn't my number one priority. As I started off in my introduction, I joined my MBA program wanting to be a marketing professional because that is something that really excited me.
Mm-hmm.
Consulting almost happened by chance. And after I got into consulting, I realized that there's so many aspects of consulting that I really enjoy. And that's why I ended up staying so long. But it wasn't something top of mind for me when I joined my MBA or even when I applied for the consulting role during my placements. But I think when I joined, what I really enjoyed was, I mean, specifically when you're doing strategy consulting, your projects are probably 6 week, 8 weeks long. And
Mm-hmm.
I had worked across multiple industries, and the amount of learning that you can get in such a short span of time, I think it's phenomenal. I don't think any other job gives you that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing to kind of get that breadth of learning and get expertise in new industries, new areas in a really fast pace. I think that is something that consulting gives you, which most other industries don't.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. Like juggling between so many projects, like just spanning 6 weeks to 7 weeks. Like you
Correct.
might be doing very different projects 6 to 7 weeks down the line as compared to
Yeah,
what you're presently taking up. So that
exactly.
way, I think you have to be very versatile. You have to constantly learn. In that sense, I guess
Absolutely.
consulting gives you really good exposure. I mean, post MBA, and but perhaps work-life balance is a challenge though, which even you mentioned.
Work-life balance is a challenge for sure. I think, and that was the reason why I left consulting when I did. But
Mhm.
I think the exposure and the level of exposure that you have to CXO level executives at such an early stage in your career, I don't think you get in other roles outside of consulting. Maybe some roles, maybe private equity or some of those other roles. But I mean, if you're doing a traditional industry role, then probably not.
I mean, my next question would be a bit personal, but talking about the work-life balance aspect, Shri, I also came to know that you are a working mother. How are you able to manage the
Yep.
responsibilities at work and also the responsibilities at home efficiently and take care of your
So I'm
child?
a working mother of twin kids. So
Okay.
it's double the responsibilities at home. So I think with that angle, I think my move to Indegene was at the right time. I don't know how I would have managed that if I was still in consulting, given the amount of travel that is required in consulting and
Mhm.
um, just the kind of work day it is. But I think with an in-house strategy role, I had a lot more visibility into what my days look like. And I have an amazing leadership team who kind of allows you that flexibility. I have the flexibility to work from home when needed, keep my calendar blocked from 6 to 8 p.m. and make sure that no meetings get scheduled in that time. No matter how important the meeting, I used to just decline. Um, and make sure that it happens outside of those hours, right? Because at that time, my kids were on a very strict routine that they have to have their dinner and then go to bed during that time frame. So I think that gives this quality bonding time with the kids, and then make them have dinner, put them to bed. So I think that used to really help. Similarly, in the mornings, I sometimes used to just start my day a little late so that I could spend time with the kids. And then, of course, once the kids are down to bed, I can take late night calls and work till later in the evening if needed. So I think just having that flexibility in terms of the working hours, and having a team who understands that you might not be available during a certain time, but you will kind of make up for it eventually. I think that these two factors play a big role. I wouldn't say it's easy, but I think it always works out.
Definitely
Yeah.
must be quite challenging, I mean, Shri, because as you mentioned,
Absolutely.
there could be like, very critical commitments, but then you have to prioritize time for the kids.
Exactly. Yep. And I mean, there are times when I have my parents or family support around when it helps a lot, but then they can't stay with me full time. And when you are kind of relying on nannies or outside help, there's always that level of uncertainty, right? So that's, I think, a part of life. And there are times when I have done meetings with kids sitting next to me and screaming at me in between, and the teams end up understanding that if you have little kids, it's okay to kind of like you go on mute when you're not speaking and kind of make it work. So I think you become much better at multitasking as well as a mother. So yeah.
Wonderful, but I mean that really respect for you. I mean, how you are able to juggle between your responsibilities that way.
Yeah, I think again, when I was growing up as a kid, my mom was also a working mom, so I think had a good role model as well growing up, and I think, yep, I guess we are super resilient that way. I think once you start doing something, you always figure out ways to kind of make it work, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, somehow
yeah,
navigate our way through.
exactly. And also, I think it's about tackling one small problem at a time instead of looking at everything that needs to be done. So nowadays, my house is not clean all the time, or things might be a mess, and it's okay to deprioritize that for other things. I think those are kind of trade-offs that you kind of do once you become a parent.
Yeah, true. I mean, see, end of the day, the time is
Yeah,
limited, and I guess you want to spend as
exactly. So
much
you
time as
kind of
possible
focus
with
on
them.
things which are most
Yes.
important. Yep.
True, true. Absolutely. So, Shri, coming to the almost the end of this podcast, just want to
Sure.
understand from you, do you have any piece of advice for people in the IT industry on how they can build their profiles for, getting into a good B school, and basically how they can leverage a business school degree to advance their career?
I think for the first part, just given what the industry is today and the kind of roles that exist today, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
a lot different from 10 years ago, if I may. I mean, with the advent of generative AI and a lot of other technologies, I don't think MBA is the only way forward, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot more options. So I think the first thing that a B school graduate who's just started their career, or if sorry, not B school graduate, an engineering or undergrad who's just started their career needs to think about is if they really need an MBA and if an MBA is right for them. But if you really think that's the way you want to go ahead, and if you're an IT professional, for example, I think adding some diversity to your profile in terms of your interest, in terms of the work you do, really helps, because um, even today in most B schools, when an Indian applies in the US or even within India, if you are an engineer and then IT, that's probably 70% of the profiles, right? So it doesn't really get differentiated. So I think how you differentiate is through some of the leadership activities that you take up in your job. Maybe you kind of just volunteer. For example, I think when I was in TCS, I had taken up a couple of teaching jobs, right? Like where I
Mm-hmm.
used to just teach small kids maths, English, and those things kind of make your resume stand out, right? Or even if it's sports or any other extracurriculars. I think those things matter because that kind of helps show your personality and not just what you are academically or professionally, right? So I think that's important. In addition to that, I think in terms of roles as well, for a software professional, I think product management is big now. It wasn't so 10 years ago. It was probably just starting off back in that time as a career option. But I think it's one of the most sought after career paths for any kind of tech professional kind of going into an MBA today, right? But in addition to that, also, I think there are a lot more opportunities today as compared to, I think, what there was, just given where technology has gone today, right? So I think the opportunity is endless. It's just about identifying that one area which really interests you and then just working on improving your skill sets in that area and kind of just staying up to speed with tech, staying up to speed with what's happening around in the world and kind of evolving yourself with times. Because I think the only thing that can stop you from progressing is if you stop learning. So, and that's even more relevant today because what you learned 10 years ago may not be relevant now. And that pace at which things are changing have become much more rapid today. So I think it's even more important to stay relevant. I think that would be the biggest advice from my end. Just stay relevant, see what's happening in the industry, stay up to date, upskill yourself all the time, no matter what stage in your career you are.
Wonderful, Shri. I mean, it has been a really, really nice interaction. I hope our listeners will also be able to benefit from it. And it was really kind of you to spend this time with us today.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed it as well, having this conversation, and it was great chatting with you. And yep, I'll look forward to kind of hearing some feedback from our listeners as well whenever you end up publishing it. So, yep, and good luck for this.
Thank you so much, Shri. Take care.
Thank you.